Okay, so we're going to combine some animal faces with some human faces, and you already have the folder of possible faces to choose from. I'm going to start with a couple of things here. So I'm just looking for some positions of faces that might work with a similar position that an animal face has. So maybe I'll select the puma, and then I'm going to hold control to choose one of the other faces here. Maybe Mark Hamill, because it's kind of looking straight at the camera just like the animal is. Okay, I have the two pictures that I want to work with, and they're open. And then I had been working on some ones earlier, like the bird with Priyanka here, and we can get pretty involved here if we use layers and masking, like you can see on my layers palette. But I'll show you a really basic way to start. So I'm going to take this picture of Mark Hamill, and then I'm going to add this animal in. So I think what I'll do is I'll just click on the background layer and I'll drag it into this picture of Mark Hamill. I'm holding it on the tab, still holding it as it switches over, and then I can drag the image into the center and overlay it. Now, the size of the images may differ, so you may have to use the Control T command in order to resize everything. So this top layer here, just so I can see what's underneath, I'm going to bring my opacity down to about 50%, and then that will help me scale the images to get an appropriate fit to overlay one face over the other. So now when I go to the edit menu, I've got a command called free transforming. The key command is Control T, and that's going to allow me to resize and try to fit things to make these faces look like they're going to be able to blend together well. You may need to zoom out a little bit. Remember, Control plus and Control minus will allow you to zoom in and zoom out, especially if you need to see the entire bounding box, because some of your pictures are going to be much larger than the images that you drop them into. So I'm already somewhat zoomed out here just so I can see the entire image and I can have control of the free transform box. So I'm going to scale this down and try to match these faces up. Think about where your eyes are going and how your mouth or your nose syncs. And you should be able to use your up and down arrow keys to just nudge, and that will move little micro increments just to get a good fit. So I'm using my arrow keys up and down to make sure that these fit the way I would like them to. Another thing you may have to do is you may have to hover outside the bounding box and you'll get these double arrows. That's going to allow you to twist and rotate the image if that is necessary for the two images that you picked. But in this case, I think I can keep everything nice and straight and I don't have to rotate it. And then click the Enter button to get out of the free transform command. Now I can hit Control plus to zoom in a tiny bit. And then I'm going to go down to the bottom of my layers palette and click on this mask. It's a square with a circle inside And as I add the layer mask, it's going to drop right into this top layer that I was at. This is where it should be, in the very top layer. And then I'm going to take my gradient tool. Now, you'll want to make sure that your gradient in terms of the black and white is on the basics, and basically what this is saying is that it is going to blend the foreground layer with the background layer. So the gradient is always going to work with your mask when you have your black and white colors set here in your toolbar. Not only does the gradient work with the layer mask, but you could also switch over and hand do things with your brush tool, so long as your brush tool is, again, utilized with a black and white brush. I'm going to do a very quick blending with my linear gradient. So you do have some shapes right up here. Linear gradient is the first one. Radial, angled has a hard edge and a soft edge. Reflective gradient, and a diamond. I'm just going to do the radial because I think that will be good for splitting this picture in half. And I'm going to click and drag from the halfway point to the edge of my image. And now that is sort of blending out some of that animal. Now I'm going to bring my opacity back up so I can get a better sense of what's really happening here. And it looks like I might have to pull the gradient one more time, or maybe a few more times. So again, I'm making sure that I'm in layer 1 and my white frame is around the layer mask, and I have my gradient tool ready. I'm going to click and drag across. So keep clicking and dragging until you get the combination that you're looking for. Getting closer. And that actually is a pretty good fit. Now, this image is much smaller. I probably want to take my crop tool to kind of clean this up and get rid of parts of the image that I don't need anymore. And then once I do my cropping, I can click the enter button and that looks much cleaner. Now you can go ahead and throw on any kind of adjustment layers that you want. If you started out with color images, you could certainly select black and white. My images are already black and white to begin with, so they were a pretty good match. Let's see. You could also feel free to play around with some of the options like brightness and contrast. If I click right on the icon itself, my properties come out for brightness and contrast. And so that could help potentially blend your images a little bit better if necessary. When you feel you have a pretty good match, then definitely go in and hit the File, Save As option, because we want to save this image as a brand new file. So this is Mark Hamill as Animal, or any kind of different title that will help you remember what this file is. And I have a folder here that I've saved called Animal Face Morph as I go and I build all these files. Save it, and then if it asks you to maximize compatibility, you can always click OK. So have fun with that.